Hello, good evening. Welcome back to another Molten chat. Just gonna get myself settled here just for a second. Oh, I might have to. Oh no, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. That looks all right. That looks okay. Got sound. I seem to have vision. Some would say. We are back, and here we are at Molten chat. The companion show to my hair, I think, mostly. To the Molten Monthly, where we get together and talk about all of the things that were in that show, except we never ever do. But that's okay. Sound and Vision excellent, says Ken. Thank you. Good to see you. Opcode. Oh, okay. Opcode Vision. Used to have an Opcode MIDI interface many years ago. So yeah, we tend to get distracted into talking about all sorts of different things, crazy ideas that I've had, stuff that's knocking around, what flavour beer we drink or not, what flavour other beverages we like to enjoy, a little bit of probably personal teasing and bits and pieces going on, and me laughing at ridiculous questions. That's the sort of thing. If you've not been here before, you're very, very welcome. I'm Robin. This is the Molten Music Technology YouTube channel, incorporating Molten Modular, Molten Music Technology, Surface Pro Audio, jiggery pokery, othery bits and pieces, Synth East, stuff like that. All of those sorts of things come under my increasingly ragged umbrella, I think. And we're here just to spend an hour or two to talk about music technology, talk about synths, talk about what we're doing, where we're going, what's happening, and to potentially play on some bits and pieces. I have some things to show you, which I will dig out, I think. So there we go. I mean, I guess the first thing to decide is what to drink. Obviously I made the mistake of going to Sainsbury's, where they just have a rack of weirdo beers, and it's 4 for $3. So, I mean, how could I resist? And I'm down to 2. So I'll give you the choice between, I've got Lilt, which is not a totally tropical taste, I don't imagine, but it is a hazy IPA called Jiddler's Tipple. I don't know whether Jiddler's Tipple is the brand or Lilt is the brand. Totally tropical taste. Anyway, it's got a nice texture to the can. I've no idea what it tastes like. It says it's an IPA, a hazy. The other one I got, which I thought the can was beautiful, is this, which is Full Circle Brewing Company, called Looper. How could I not? But that's at 6.4, so I'm going to be sort of on the floor, I imagine, by the end of that one. So which do you fancy? And I'll get stuck into that while we say hello. So hello to Ken, of course. He's my number one. He's just my number one. That's, there's no qualification needed other than to be Ken. So it's good to see you here. Visions, you were the first, I have to say. Is everyone number one today? I don't know. I don't understand. Nobody understands what the purple thing is about. I'm sorry about that in the chat. That doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, Thomas, good to see you. Muzlak, yes. I've had some ideas about your what's it, because I was inspired, or rather chastised. That's the word I'm after. Again this week for completely failing to do videos on things, which happens, People send me stuff and I don't always have the chance, or it doesn't quite gel with me, or no, more than likely it's just that I don't get the chance. I have every intention of making a video about anything that somebody sends in. It just doesn't always work out quite that way, but I do try to include things where I can, so that I can give it a little bit of a show. But with the dig tac, wherever it's called, I don't even know where it is. Oh, it's over there. With that, I fully do intend to make a video. I just haven't got around to it yet. So I haven't done anything more than sort of tap it a few times to work out, does that do that? Oh, that seems to do that. I haven't properly sorted it out yet, but I intend to. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I was reminded by some poor guy who sent me his module that it was a year since he sent it. And I still hadn't done anything on it. And I'm terribly, terribly sorry about that. My only excuse really is that the YouTubing video thing is a part-time side hustle thing. It's not my full-time occupation. And while it does generate a little bit of cash, not a whole lot, but enough to keep me in it and to keep me going. So unfortunately I have other things I need to do, so I don't have the time that I would like to spend on things. But it did remind me that I have that module, and I will try to do something on it very, very soon. I've got 3 bits of writing to do this week. And then I might be out of writing, which is a bit of a worry, obviously. But then I should be able to get onto some videos while I try to rustle up some more writing. Yes, living paycheck to paycheck at the moment. Who else have we got? So anyway, that's why I haven't done your thing yet, mate, but I will get to it. As I said, I had an idea. What was that combined with? I was going to combine it with something to create the triggers. I forget now. But it was a bloody good idea, whatever it was. Anyway, we'll get back to that, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, no, for the same reason. Yeah, absolutely. Because the module I've been thinking of is The Pianist by, I forget, MH Modular? Could be. And it's a polyphonic 8-channel CV chord generator. And I have a whacking great big 8 oscillator VCO that I can stick it into. But I need something which is going to generate the gates, because I think it only generates notes, not gates. And so I was going to use that to generate the gates. See, yes, that was the plan. That was the plan. Visions, you like my build videos? Cool, yeah. I haven't done a little bit of DIY for a month or two, I don't think. And I definitely have some to do and would like to do some soon. Very good evening, Alcamantra. Yuki Huki Y. No, it's very cold beer. Thankfully, because it's hot in here. Hot in here. Hey James, good to see you. Clocaine. I was the only one talking about the downed instruments Acadie. Yeah, funny looking thing, wasn't it? It was an interesting box with some different options, like arpeggiation, and then music creation, and then chord creation, and then quantization, and then playing the things. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the month for slightly weird, slightly out there bits and pieces, which was interesting to talk about, even if I wasn't always able to fully articulate exactly what was going on. But it was good to point these things out. Fun bits and pieces, because those are good things. Once you've got a synth voice built, then heck, you need to get into the weirdness. That's what I say. Otherwise, what are we doing? Anyway, I need to have a beer. Nobody really cares. Fair enough. In which case, I don't know then. I mean, that's 5.5, but I mean, this is the nice looking one, so maybe I'll go for that and just have to deal with the consequences of 6.4. Because I am a bit of a lightweight. I'll put that over there out of the way. That can sit over there on that Allen key, because I have Allen keys just knocking around all the time. Pour it into my Ruddles glass that my oldest stole from some poor pub somewhere, I suspect. Yeah, I would agree that DIY and beer don't really mix. This doesn't mix either, particularly. I mean, I'm likely to just pour it over myself or something else. So it's all a bit of a risk. But hey, I didn't quite get it all in the glass because my pour is so poor. Oh, that's a cloudy beer, that. Contemplate that for the moment. So how are you doing? I'm a bit frazzled as usual. Had a frazzly weekend just because of the heat. Heat's really bad. And what did I do? Oh yeah, all sorts of things. I've been all over the place with the dog today, which is exciting. But I'm ready and geared up for a whole nother week of heat wave, where I get about 4 hours in the morning when it's nice and cool in the shed. And I try to get stuck into things, which means doom scrolling for the first 2 hours, then answering emails, and then getting a little flash of work done in the last half an hour. That seems to be the way that it goes. And then in the afternoon, just too damn hot to do anything. But we're trying. Too early. Throwing a question. Some reason I can't get my Erebus to recognise my MIDI keyboard when it's plugged into my MIDI hub. Is it possible then the problem would be in the MIDI hub? These things are sent to try us. I find that all these bits of technology are brilliant when they are flawlessly working, and the moment that they're not, there's a bit of a pain in the arse. Why that would be, I mean, you have to just trial and error it. You have to plug the thing directly in. Does that work? Yes. Then via the hub, it doesn't work. There has to be a reason. It's unlikely to be. It's more when you're dealing with MIDI. It's nearly always a channel number. It's a channel number or a filter. It's always on the wrong channel, wrong port, wrong filter, that sort of thing. That tends to be the way, because MIDI is very rarely wrong. It's usually an incorrect setting. It's not like with control voltage, it doesn't quite have enough signal strength or power or something like that. Oh, that's very tasty. That's very tasty. Not too thick. That'll do. Is 101, so that's what, 35, is that right? With the Fahrenheit to Celsius kind of conversion rate. I always take off 30 and halve it, or halve it and take off, take off 30 and halve it. That's warm. Korg MIDI 2.0 over USB is flawless. Really, that's interesting to hear, because Korg's normal MIDI has been atrocious for years. You've had to do all sorts of weird stuff. You had to like strip old MIDI drivers out of Windows in order to get Korg to shuffle itself in the order to be seen. It's always been a bit of a nightmare. You've got to run a special Korg driver, and that installs itself and goes ta-da, and then nothing works, and you have to go back in and, as I say, scrape a load of stuff out, force it, then overwrite it, all that kind of thing. So to hear that MIDI 2.0 is a beautiful thing is really good to hear, because there has to be a reason for MIDI 2.0 to exist. There has to be. We'll find it one of these days. But if part of that reason is the ease of installation, then that's great. That's fantastic. MIDI very quickly gets me annoyed, because I'm plugging in and out a lot of stuff all the time into my main DAW. It's always going a little bit nuts. It doesn't really know what it is. And because I use Studio One quite a bit, and I actually write workshops on Studio One, I'm having to contend with their weird external instruments configurator thing. I always liked the MIDI configuration in Cakewalk, because there wasn't any. You just got a list of stuff. Cubase was the same. You just got a list of stuff. Here's what's plugged in. And you go, great, I'll have that, please. No, can't do that in Studio One. You have to create an instrument which is then attached to the stuff that's plugged in. So you've got this extra layer in the way, just to give you, I suppose, an opportunity to put in a nice name for something. And it just gets in the way. I find it enormously frustrating. I mean, they've got a lovely long list of things which are written for it in order for you to just select from the list. But I've never had a controller that's on that list. I don't know who maintains that list. They should be fired, I'm going to suggest. But, so yeah, MIDI controllers and MIDI generally are a bit of a pain in the arse. But I'm really hopeful that MIDI 2.0 is the sort of thing that may sort that out, and I'm quite looking forward to the flawlessness of that. I don't hold out a whole lot of hope, but there may be some. Oh, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, good stuff is good to hear. Yamaha MIDI to be comprehensive. I haven't had any Yamaha gear in a very long time, so I couldn't really say. But back in the day, I mean, of XG Edit, getting into the SW1000 and the SG60, it was beautiful, fantastic stuff the Yamaha was doing. That was a long time ago. Both ways, same time. Gracious. Hey, Black and Blue. Good to see you. So, yeah, well, it's summer. Look, we're a little bit down on the numbers. Well, never mind. That's okay. It's summer. People are hot, doing other things. Sunday night, I didn't do a whole lot of shouting about this live stream, but we'll carry on. I'll try and just assume that this is heading out to a million awesome people who aren't spending their time watching Glastonbury and instead here watching me. Hi, Kraken. So I'm going to have another sip and I'm going to think, what should I do then? So I could talk a little bit about this system that's next to me here. I could open a new synth and show it to you. Some ways, could even plug it in and get some sound out potentially. We could do a bit of that, a bit of each of that. Both of those, in fact. I don't have any brand new modular, particularly to show you. Just right at the moment. But I can take you through my little dealer box. Maybe that would be fun. Should we do that? We could do that. We could do that. I could even get the overhead camera involved. That might be exciting. Let me have a look at that. Ooh, new synth, says Ken. Yeah. Right. Just look at my tummy for a minute. And I'll... Oh, hey, I could do... Is it that one? Oh, look, yeah. A bit of each. Then you can look down on my beer. Oh, that way. Oh, a bit like that. Is that all right? Yeah, I think so. Right, let's put my beer amongst all this electronics over here. Oh yeah, I've got the seashell sitting here. I could plug something into that. I was thinking about that, and then the thing I was going to plug into it didn't work. So I'm having a rethink. So now I'm going to pull this into myself so that you can no longer see it on there. Perfect. Look at that. Awesome. What a good job. Well done. Let's bring the that in a little bit. All right. Just that. Is that going to... Come on. Do I care if you can't see anything? No, not really. So what is this? I hear you say. What is the whole point? What's the point of this? Let me put something on. I need a bit more sound at my end. All right. So the idea, okay, is what we're looking at here. This is one of the gorgeous cases made for me by Schreiber Maschine, and the concept is that. All right, the story. Let me try to remember the story. The idea. It took a little while, so I don't know if I can even remember now. But the idea was that. I wanted some nice small cases in order to build some nice small systems, with the idea of using these systems as kind of instruments that then other people could use, other people could rent potentially and take away and make music with. And it would allow me to, the idea of putting together a couple of little systems based on stuff I have lying about to build something interesting, something worthwhile, something interesting to explore. And so this is my first attempt. I've got Adelia, I've got one called Wendy and one called Molten. I thought they were good names, so we went with those. So this one is very simple. I just sort of put it together as a synth voice, again using stuff I'm not really using, except for the oscillator, which I was using, but I got in a bit of a muddle. I was using where's it gone? I need to do something on that. Yeah. Just saw that in the detritus of my desk. I don't even know where it is. I was using the Custer and Pollux. That's right. I was using that, which was this great twin oscillator thing, but it just wasn't working, and I was having difficulty with distortion. And I worked on it. I thought, sod it, let me change it for another oscillator. So I put this one in and then realised I'd had the boost on all the time in the mixer, and that's why it was so distorted. So anyway, but by then I'd already put it back together again. I thought, well, we'll just keep it as it is. So this is unlikely to stay in this case, as I want to use it in my main case because I really like it. This is I've no idea how to pronounce Carani, I don't know, from Knob Technology. They're the same people who made that really weird sort of cosmic percussion module that I really liked a while ago, which is a lot of fun to use. And this is from the same people, and it's got this beautiful amount of color inside, which is really, I'm very easily pleased by these sorts of things. And it has some really great sound shaping options, which are just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Oh yeah, I'm still on that shot. Anyway, so octave switch, which is a really good thing as far as I'm concerned. I like an octave switch because it allows me to throw the melody up and down rather than just a big whacking great tuning knob. So that's a great thing. It has this, which is kind of pulse width modulation on everything, regardless of wave. This, I don't remember what that does, except it goes from sine wave through to noise, I think, as you turn it. So again, that's sweeping through sounds. You've got some kind of thing, you press that and it changes something, and I'm not sure what that does yet. And I got a hard and soft thing, which I don't know what that does either. Probably to do with sync, I suspect. But I haven't done anything other than use it. I've used it directly in my rack just for getting sounds out, and you've got 2 knobs worth of play on it, and that's what I like. That's what I like. You run something through it and you've got 2 knobs with which to change the sound, which is great. So really good. It's got like a mix out and then individual outs as well if you so wish. It's got a sub which you can bring in on these knobs here, I think. It's a great oscillator, and I do plan on doing a video on it soon. Again, it's one of those bandwidth problems. But it's a nice thing. I dug out my Jove filter, which has been sitting around looking sad for a long time, which is a lovely filter. This is the first filter I bought. I've enjoyed it for many years. I just sort of have smaller filters now because it's always taken up a bit of room and I'm struggling to fit it in, so it's kind of been bumped out of the case a lot. So it's good to have that back in, because room, funnily enough, is not a problem in this case. It's power that's a problem. So I've actually got spare room as it goes. Then I put in the old Batumi. I've got a Batumi 2 as well somewhere else, but I put in the old Batumi for a bit of modulation because that's what you need. I've got a low pass gate thing here because I don't have a VCA. I thought that might be useful. And then I stuck in the stasis leak, which is an effects module at the end. Again, I was using something else, but I had to find the right selection of modules because it's all powered on USB, which is this cable here, which is just going into the wall. This cable here, which is poking out of here. Sadly, not quite enough room for a Molten hole to fit in that space. That would have been beautiful, but never mind. So inside here is a USB power supply built by Beat Boop, and it's just a strip of power sockets and this little power board that's USB powered. But there's only so much power it can handle, and it can do this. But at one point I had a qubit module in there. That was too much power. I had an Endorphins Milky Way for the effects. That drew too much power. So I had to shuffle things around until it would actually turn on, which is an interesting exercise in itself. So this, brilliant, perfectly works, and will run ridiculously off a little phone battery. Where have I gone? How have I gone? Okay, so I've lost one of my cameras. That's weird. Just give me a sec. I've realised that I was running it on a battery when I should have been running it in real life. Good job I wasn't just using that camera, otherwise the whole thing would have been pear-shaped. Okay, so you can just keep on looking at the pretty lights and I'll stick my power supply into here as if it was meant to happen all along. All right. So I'm just going to zoom in on myself to get the focus in. Phew! Did I rescue it? I think I did. What shows up on eBay? So what I should have done is looked up all the power ratings on all of the modules and then added it up to see how much of the 3 amps I could get. So yeah, I've got goo on that. So just at this phone battery here, if I unplug it from the wall, where is it, this one? That's very hot. Very miraculously, if I plug it in here, the thing starts up and it works. So I need to sit down and time how long this battery lasts, because it's a brilliant little thing. It's a brilliant thing. That works is amazing to me. So modules that it's running, got the output module from Music Thing, which is great because it also provides a clock. So it's got a clock in there and also a couple of little outputs and headphone driver. So I've got that running. I've got Frequency Central Stasis Leak. The low pass gates here aren't powered, so that's not a factor. Those are passive. Got the Batumi, got the Jove, got the VCO, got the black EG2, which is nice. It's a variable gate envelope, which I'm enjoying. I don't fully understand because it's an envelope. It's automatically not something that I understand. And I've got the Arbor Darkness up here, and also the Molten motion meter, which seemed appropriate to include one of my own modules in this thing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 powered modules. You know, one should be able to do something with that, one would think. But then what do I put in the next ones? That's the questions. They are good questions. Because whenever you're putting sort of a voice together, you're thinking, well, I need a VCA and I need this, I need that. And this is true. But some of the difficulties I'm having, I don't have the right sort of modules. I've got a lot of strange modules because many of my modules have been sent to me for review. What nobody ever sends me is like a dual channel VCA. So I don't have anything like that. You know, a couple of simple envelopes, a couple of simple VCAs, those would be handy. A couple of LFOs, rather than 4 LFOs on a wide module, just a couple on a smaller module with different outputs. Things like that, because the space disappears really quick, as does the power, and it'd be nice to have something that I could just pull in terms of modulation, excuse me, or you know, or trimming or level or enveloping, that sort of thing. Tempora Boto, though these are cases from Schreiber Machina. They are making cases, I believe. They are 3D printed. These are kind of prototypes, and they're looking into doing more of them, and these are for a project of mine where I'm building little cases. So let me tell you, get rid of that for a minute. Let me tell you why I'm building these and what that's all about. Right, so I mentioned this in the Molten Monthly, in that I'm looking to try to find a way of doing some kind of synthesizer event in Norwich far more often. And my thinking on this has been, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I mean, since we created Synth East, really, which is an annual event, which is fantastic, big festival of synthesizers and performances and films and talks and all sorts of things. That's great. That will remain. I'm not trying to change or undo any of that. That's a fantastic thing. Let me put myself back on my main camera. Instead, there's been a couple of things feeding into this. Sorry, this feels a bit babbly. I'm just kind of thinking on my feet, I suppose. But I've been thinking a long time about, is there a way that I can rinse money right out of the gear I've got in my shed? So just to start this off, because I find it desperately uncomfortable when it comes to talking about money and financing things and trying to earn a living. You know, these things they drive me nuts, and I don't ever want anyone to believe that I'm in it for the money, because it's just not the case. But the flip side to that is that I'm struggling to make a living, and so I'm looking for ways to bolster my income and to create a little bit more security and things like that. You know, it would be nice to have a pension one day. You know, all sorts of things. And so I find myself having to talk about these things while not liking to talk about these things. I'd much rather just talk about the music. But these things are important ultimately. So one of the things that I've been thinking about for a long time is that as a reviewer of gear, I end up with a lot of gear and gear that I'm not using necessarily. Some of it I am, some of it I do, but much of it I do not. And on one hand, it's like, well, you know, that's just the way of things. And I have friends who are also reviewers who just have loads of stuff stuffed in cupboards, you know, because then difficult things to sell because they're not really yours as such. Anyway, so so what I'm saying is I have a lot of stuff in the shed, and it's always been a pain to me that this stuff can't I've always felt that this stuff could be being used by people, and that's great. And so I have lent stuff out before, and other bits and pieces like that. However, it got me thinking that perhaps there's a way that I can harness all of this gear that's in this shed in order to create another income stream. So I'm going to try my best to be unashamed about talking about that kind of thing, because that has to be a possibility, I think. So I've been mulling this idea over, how best to do that. At one point I created a website database with all my modules on, and thinking that people could individually rent modules, for instance, or you could join the Molten modular club, and you pay £10 a month, and every month you get a new module in the post, and it goes round and you send it on to the next person, like a book club. You know what I mean? That had some legs, and I thought, that's a possibility. But ultimately I'm putting a load of work in to getting like maybe a few tenors from people, and it's like, I don't know, is it actually worth my time? Do I have the spare time to put into that? Is there enough of a reward for that happening? And how much danger is there in stuff just being broken, going away, disappearing, being taken away or sold? There's all sorts of things that crop up when you start thinking about renting stuff out. Now, there are ways of doing it. There are various websites that will look after that side of things for you. It's a possibility, but it got me thinking that perhaps individual modules is not the way. Perhaps maybe it would be more interesting to build a little system and then rent that out, and that way the system has a little bit of character, it has a personality. I could do a video on the system showing it working, and then people could borrow that system, try out a couple of the patches, and then start enjoying themselves in their own way. Maybe that is a more interesting way to offer a rental service of modular. So for someone who's never had any modular before, they get a complete working instrument. For people who do have modular, they've got a lot of things that they can then integrate with their own system or play with by itself. There could be things like a patch book that comes with it that you could fill out and show your patches, and then when it goes on to somebody else, they could add their patches, and it could be a beautiful thing. So that was what I discussed with Schreiber Machina, and they were really into the idea, and so were well up for providing me with these cases to see whether we can make it a bit of a goer. Hopefully these cases will get around the place and people will make videos on them and show them, and there'll be a wonderful journey and adventure that these things go on. That's the idea. Okay. Now that I've got that going on, and that's something I've been trying to think about how to do. And then I've got other bits of gear that would also work into that. Like I've got the Moog Sound Studio. I've got a bunch of little Roland synths. I've got a bunch of Dreadbox synths. Maybe there's little packets and pockets and combinations of synths that could be rented in a similar fashion. So all of this is good idea, and it's feeling good. I'm thinking, maybe this could be a thing, and it could generate a couple of £100 every month. It could generate thousands if I charge thousands for things, but trying to be realistic about it. I don't want it to be unaffordable. I'm not trying to make a huge amount of money off the backs of people who can't afford stuff. I'd like, part of my whole remit, the whole reason I exist on the internet, is to open up concepts and ideas and bits of modular to people who don't really know or understand. I'm trying to explain stuff so that more people get the opportunity to get in. So everything that I'm about is about providing access to synths and Eurorack and knowledge and the potential ability to do a thing with electronic music. That's what it's about. So the idea is going to be to try to make it as affordable as possible while also trying to make it a stream of revenue. Are you with me? Do you understand what I'm trying to do? Trying to get that concept in there. It's a hard one to crowbar in because, you know, I've worked in the music industry for 30 years. I understand how a lot of it works. I understand the ideas of margins, of making money, of upselling and overselling, you know, and I know that we suffer a lot as musicians from the attitude of many music shops towards just trying to make money, because that tends to be the situation that those people are in. So taking all of that idea as a thing, one of the biggest problems with trying to rent stuff out is getting it to people, is the physical logistics of boxing it up, finding the right sort of packaging and couriering it to someone. So these boxes, they didn't come with any packaging at all. So I was going to have to come up with something which would allow it to be shipped with like £1,000 worth of modular in and not get completely trashed. That was a huge worry. Now, because I don't live in London, it didn't seem to make any sense to try to do that in person. If I was going to drive and drop these off with somebody, that's fine. But then all the money I would have made on renting the thing has now gone on travel expenses and time. So, oh gosh, it's so hot in here. I'm sorry, I'm sweating. So that was a problem. I mean, the security issue is a whole other thing, and I'm still working on that. I don't really know how to prevent people stealing stuff. Well, I do. I have ideas on that. My ideas basically on that side of things is that you just have to verify people's existence. I think you have to nail down the identity, the address, you know, passport, driving license, forms of ID. You have to verify and identify a person before they get any chance to rent a thing. I can't just have someone come off the street and I'll say, yeah, sure, take this system, that's fine. Bring it back in a month. It's not going to quite work like that. I have to be able to nail down some kind of level of security so that we know where they live, we know who they are. So if there's any kind of problems, we can send the boys round. I mean, I guess that's it. So the two problems, couriers and security, those are two things. And so bringing this idea back to what I spoke about in my Molten Monthly, which was sparked by PMT going bust. PMT used to be Academy of Sound, I think. It used to be Digital Village at some point, I think, in Norwich. Was this one music shop that did everything. So it did guitars, sure, but it did keyboards, it did pianos, it did synths, it did music technology, audio interfaces, everything. It did the lot. But it's the last place in Norwich to do that. There is also Cook's Music in St Benedict Street, which is great, but they do band instruments. Yeah, that's it. They don't do synths or music tech particularly. They do instruments, brass, guitar, ukuleles, drums, I think, PA systems, which is fine. So what that means is that there is nowhere in Norwich, or really East Anglia, because there's also a PMT in Cambridge, and I assume that's gone also. There's nowhere in East Anglia to try out a synthesizer. It just does not exist. So there's a whole issue, and lots of people are talking about what to do with music shops because there's a real problem. Music shops are closing and disappearing. Local boutique ones, not so much, because they're small enough, if you like, to somehow be versatile and to change and be interesting and characterful and to have a staff that are into the idea of it. Once you get into chains of music shops, they tend to be much more focused on, from top down, much more focused on generating cash in order to pay all the different people in the departments and keep everything moving. And so the experience tends to be, not always, everything changes, everything is different, everything is possible, but it tends to be in a chain music shop, they are going to be very much sales orientated rather than musician orientated. And that can cause us problems. I think everyone's got slight nightmare stories from music shops where you just didn't feel particularly served. My experience of PMT in Norwich is that they've always been brilliant, funnily enough. I bought my Telecaster from them a few years ago, and an amp. I bought the whole thing. I didn't necessarily mean to. I took my Les Paul and my Orange amp. My Orange amp I'd actually bought from them when they were Academy of Sound many years before. But I was in a situation where my Orange Combi 30, Rocker 30 I think it was just too heavy. I was fed up with lugging it about. And the Les Paul was something that I bought in my rock days, thinking I was going to be a rock god. And again, too heavy and cumbersome. And so I was thinking of trading those in for something else. And so I did. Didn't expect to trade it in for a Telecaster. I thought I was going to get a Jaguar or something a bit cooler. But I just fell in love with this telly. It was a beautiful black Telecaster, lovely thing, and bought a Boss Katana amplifier, which was lightweight but sounded great. Perfect. I never would have done any of that online. That could only have happened, that situation of taking something in, trading it in, talking to a guy, getting recommendations, trying out a bunch of guitars. That can only happen in a music shop environment. There's no way that would have happened in any other way. I mean, I had toyed with putting my stuff on eBay before, but selling guitars and posting those is just, that would have been a disaster. I would have ended up with nothing. So, you know, I'm very, very aware of how vital music shops are within that situation. And similarly, in electronic music with synthesizers, I spent a lot of time in Rose Morris, in London. I spent a lot of time in Lynn Music in Kings Lynn, playing on their DX7s back in the day. In fact, I even tried out a CZ101 in Cook's Music when they used to do synthesizers 30 odd years ago. So that they have always been a vital source of just being able to go and have a play. And you're curious, you don't really know, wow, I got to play a Juno, you know, in a second-hand Juno, I remember in Rose Morris, and thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever played. And that was great. And I remember going into Turnkey. I mean, I worked at Turnkey for 10 years, and this is way before I did. But I remember going in there and seeing a Prophet 5 and thinking that was just the most extraordinary thing ever. And you have those experiences in music shops, and they're just not there. The only place that gets close to that now is some kind of synthesizer show like Synth East. So we do that already. We know that already. There are a couple of shows a year you can get to see new gear, try it out, potentially. Not always, because there's sometimes queues of people, but you have that opportunity. But that's it. It's not like you're going up in your lunch hour or dropping by a place or anything like that. It's like one day a year, and that's your only opportunity to go and try something out. And that's a shame. I think that's a problem. Sorry, I'm just checking the comments. But anyway, we've all got our music shop things. Love them or hate them, they can be extraordinarily useful. But they are in decline. So all of this has happened while at the same time I'm thinking about my renting situation and whether I can get that off the ground and how can I get over this problem of the couriers and security and all those sorts of things. And it occurred to me, I mean, similarly, we'd also been talking, me and the guys at Synth East, me and the people, I should say, behind Synth East have been talking about, you know, could we possibly do something else during the year that ties in with the same event? You know, lots of these things in the air. And so I started thinking about, well, maybe there's a way of doing like a pop-up shop that people can go to and try out synths, and that would fill some of that stopgap, some of that void left by these music shops closing. So then the question becomes, how does one do that? Because a music shop requires stock and staff and admin and warehousing and marketing and demo modules and all this sort of thing, which is very true. So I thought, so how do we do this differently? We have to do it differently. It can't be a music shop. Now, I'm in a relatively unique situation where I have a bunch of gear, some of it quite current. And I could potentially take that to a venue, set it all up, and people could try it out. So that would be a nice thing for me to do, I suppose. And I could do that every now and again. Maybe that's something. But would people come? Would people be interested? How would I make that work? Isn't this just taking time out of my day, making me even poorer and less able to make a living? Okay, so it's a good idea, but how can I make it pay for itself? How can I make it work as a little business idea without it getting slimy and greasy, you know? So I thought, well, I could, rather than having warehousing and stock, I could direct people to websites like Gear for Music. I have an affiliate account with Gear for Music, so I could put a little sheet next to each synthesizer with a QR code. People could go, zoop, it'll take them to Gear for Music, and I would get a few pennies kicked back if they decided to then buy the synthesizer. So that is a possibility. I don't get very much for that, I have to say, but it's something. It's something, and maybe that would help. Is it likely that a lot of people are going to buy anything through this? I don't know. Those are unknowns, but that's a starting point, that I've got some gear. I can provide links where people can buy them. I can offer advice and show them how they work. So there's a certain element of music shopness in that people can drop in who don't know anything about synths. I can show them some stuff and they can potentially make a purchase. So maybe there's something there. And this got me thinking, okay, so maybe I can combine that with the rental idea. Because if I'm hiring a venue in Norwich, I might as well use it to its max, you know, because that's going to cost a little bit of money. So I thought, well, you know, let's bring my rental idea into this. So I've got various synths set up that people can try. And I've also got these little systems of modular and other little collections of bits and pieces that people can rent. And maybe that's the secret to it, because that way it could be done in person. So there's no couriers involved. There's no danger of damage in that way. People come, rent something, take it away. And in that transaction, I've got a personal connection with the person who comes to get it. I've got photographs of them picking it up, photographs of the state that it's in, all of their identification documents and, you know, proof of who they are. All of that will help, I think, in making the rental thing actually work. And then the following month, when I set up again, they can bring it back. And then somebody else can borrow it, and so on and so forth. So that could become a thing. So this little sort of Synth East Popup, I'm calling it at the moment, is there to provide a pre-sales demo of certain synthesizers. I'm not going to have every synthesizer. I'm not going to have big ones. I've only got little ones, and it's only me with a couple of bags. So, you know, within reason. So it'll be a pre-sales demo environment with potential rental of stuff as well and borrowing of stuff. And also you could potentially come along, bring a little synth and plug in for a bit of a jam. You know, those elements coming together in this one Saturday a month, say, sounds like a bloody brilliant idea. At least I think so at this stage. The security around rentals is still an issue, which I'm still working on. I'm going to talk to some people this week about insurance and bits and pieces and how to nail that down. That's certainly one thing. But overall, as an idea, I think it's workable. And if it's one day a month for me, but it makes, you know, a bit of cash, then that will be worth it. Because there'll be a day of working it out beforehand and clearing it up afterwards, or that kind of thing. But it could be worth my time, but I do have to pay for the venue and all those sorts of things. So it's up in the air. I've got two venues in Norwich that I've been looking at, and they both have some fantastic pros and a couple of cons. And I'm trying to work that out at the moment. Maybe I'll just take a break from talking for a second and we can talk about that in a minute. But that, more or less, is the idea. That's the idea. Trying to fill the void left by music shops to provide people with advice and access to synthesizers, potentially to take away and rent for a month at a time, which could help support what I do, my channel, this channel, help me make a living potentially by running a little rental business, a little sales business in that space that there now is nothing. Maybe that is a goer. And I've also talked about potentially getting manufacturers down. So once I'm set up and running once a month, maybe 1 month I could get Source to come down, and they could bring down a Buchler, they could bring down some Dreadbox stuff, a Polybrute, because they've got a number of brands. Another month I could ask Focusrite down, and they could bring sequential stuff and Oberheim stuff. It has potential for these manufacturers to bring their bits down to show, so that people get the option and the opportunity to try bigger, more interesting synths. There you go. So I'm going to take a swig, and then we'll go through some of the comments and see what people have said about all that. It's so bloody hot in here today. Just ridiculous. I'm going to have to take my shirt off. Oh. Okay, comment from I don't know how to pronounce your name, Yujuki Huyi. Talks about the Prophet 5 and the Korg PS3300. They cost the same. People still rave about how great the Prophet 5 is, but why is that? Well, because it was a bloody easy synthesizer to use. You've only got one knob for everything. I think the Prophet 5 really nailed the workflow in terms of how a modern synthesizer, let me just bring this back across here, how a modern synthesizer should work. The PS3300 was harking to the past, and we forget, I think we forget with our nostalgic eyes, that things that happen at the time, you really wanted to move forward. People were interested in new technology and new stuff and looking cool going into the future, not going into the past. So all those rubbishy old analog synthesizers that we love now, at the time people were thinking, I can't wait to get rid of those and get to something stable and sensible. And the Prophet 5 definitely gave off stable and sensible vibes, whereas the PS3300 did not. It gave off old school wooden cabinets of modular vibes. So I don't think it's too difficult to see why one was massive a success and the other one was not. But heck, the Prophet 5's life was pretty short, really, because it wasn't long, 5-6 years before digital stuff just ploughed in and took over. Fascinating. It really is fascinating. The amount of time it took, or the little amount of time it took between the Prophet 5 and sequential going bust, or the OBXA and Oberheim going bust, or ARP and ARP going bust, or EMS and EMS going bust. They were all such terrible business people. But things moved fast, and fashion within music technology has always been a thing and a problem, I think. A problem for companies who aren't able to change and keep pace. Less so these days because because in our postmodern world, which we weren't then, we are now, we are much better at keeping alive different ideas. Whereas in the 70s and the 80s, it was very much a singular path. We must get to digital. This will be better. All these roads are leading to the future. As opposed to now, with our postmodern brains, everything breaks apart and we can sample a bit of this, sample a bit of that, and enjoy this, that, and the other. So yeah, it is interesting, but I think I've I answered that question. Pop-up modular shop. Yeah, I don't think there's enough interest in a pop-up modular shop by itself. I think people genuinely would prefer to have a keyboard on a thing and understand what's going on. I think having a modular shop is great in the right place, like Bristol or Glasgow or Brighton. Those places really, really work to have a modular shop. But I think if you want to make it a going concern, you have to deal with synthesizers that the majority of people are going to understand. Having modular as well, I think, is important because people need to be exposed to it to understand what the heck it is that's going on with that. Because I think in these days, and also moving towards the future, there will be much more hybrid working. I mean, we've been through 10 years of people just throwing themselves into modular and going modular, and that's brilliant, and I think that's awesome, and that's something that I've really enjoyed doing. But I think as we go forward, people won't go quite so full on. People will tend to go, I'd like a bit of modular to augment my Groovebox, my Digitac, my Ableton Live or whatever. I want a little bit of modular which does this and does that, and then that little bit of modular may grow and become their whole life, or it may not. So you need kind of stuff that's in between. I mean, that's why the seashell I've got here is interesting, because it's an in-betweener, perhaps. The Nobular Monumatic, another in-betweener. It's MIDI and CV. So I think we'll see much more of that. And so if people have the opportunity to see regular synths playing alongside modular, I think it will start to make a bit more sense. Yeah, and again, I don't want to be stocking or selling anything. I want to be providing excuse me, I want to be providing a service of advice and demo while not having to make money on the margin. I will make money on the sales if they follow my affiliate links, but I have a lot less control over that, and it's not so much. So I can't use that as my only source of income, if you know what I mean. I don't want that to be, I don't want to be in the headspace where I'm trying to make sales. Do you see what I mean? It has to, if it can support itself with the rental side of things, and I get a few tips on the sales, then that to me is how it should work. Or potentially sponsorship from manufacturers coming in. Do I charge them to come in and show their stuff? I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Again, I'm not a great businessman. So what I really want to push back against the idea that I'm trying to sell stuff in order to make the commission, to make the money. Why did I talk about this? I don't remember. I'm sorry I've had COVID. That's awful. What a horrible thing. Sounds risky and expensive. Yeah, it is. My voice is going already. Jason, good to see you. I'll try to wrap up by 10, mate. I'll do my best. Trying to make it too cheap. Yeah, I think you should make it more expensive. Maybe. I don't know. It's so difficult because, I mean, to talk, I like to be transparent and talk about these things as openly as I can. Again, that's why I'm not a good business person, but what I would rent these for is another whole other question. How do you put a price on that exactly? I mean, when I was looking at, there's this place called Fat Llama, right, which is a website where you can rent anything to anybody, and there are a few synths on there, and normally speaking, a synth is advertised on there for like 25 quid a day. So that would be 150 quid ish a week. And upwards of that. That was just for a little, like a Mother 32. It goes up rapidly from that. And so the pricing on how much you rent something for is a very interesting question. It's again why little modules were difficult, because some of them are worth £800, some of them are worth 50 quid. It's difficult. It gets messy if you're trying to do it in like a club membership subscription kind of way. How does that work? So when I've been looking at these, I've been thinking about sort of 200 quid a month, 50 quid a week, because you have to take it for a month, because I'm only there one day a month. So it has to be rented for a month, which is a different thing. But 200 quid sounds like a lot to me. So I'd rather do it for 100 quid, but then of course I've suddenly halved my income. And if I've got 3 of these, I could be making 600 quid. I could be making 300 quid. I don't know what is the best thing to do. Obviously, it's better to earn more money, but you have to work out whether people would actually be prepared to pay that much. And this is all, behind the curtain stuff. So it's like, well, I've let it out of the bag now. You don't actually have to pay me anything because it doesn't cost anything. It just depends on how much money I want to make or how much we decide as some kind of social capitalist contract into how much worth it is borrowing that thing. Now, I've got something like this, right? Oh, I've just broken. So something like this. I made this one, put it together. The Erica Synths MK ES, EDU thingy. It's an entire synthesizer voice with a sequencer and an effect. It's cool. Now, I could rent this out cheaply. This is like the loaner, if you know what I mean. So if somebody wanted to explore modular for the first time, they could rent this for, say, 50 quid for the month. That would be a possibility. Other little synths, like if you wanted to borrow the Erebus, then maybe that would be a 50 quid a month kind of idea. Maybe 30 quid. I don't know. So these are questions, again, I'm going to have to wrestle with to see what works, what makes it worthwhile, what sort of level of pricing is acceptable, is tolerable, is attractive. All big, interesting questions that really I should just do myself and not tell people about. But I like the idea of this working right for the maximum amount of people. So I appreciate feedback and thoughts that people have on it so that I can work out whether I'm just off the mark completely or whether there is a way of running this idea where kind of everybody wins. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. Amateur radio, Womble, right? Back in the 80s, 90s, radio music in Edinburgh was a great place to get lost in. Playing with the gear, yeah. Oh, I mean, just a note actually on my radio show idea. I just can't make it happen. There's no way I can work out how to route yourself around the copyright problems of YouTube. It's too difficult. While it's unlikely that one would get copyright strikes if people are giving you permission to do stuff, the risk is too high on how long it's taken me to build up this channel. To risk it with the idea of just doing a late night radio show is too much. It's too much. If I could do an actual radio show on the radio, fantastic, I would do that. And I have looked into that and I had not any luck so far. But to do it on YouTube is just too difficult in terms of copyright. So I'm going to stick that on the back burner for now. See what else happens. Hey, Paulie. What was I doing? Oh, yeah. About taking build orders for DIY kits. Yeah. I don't have the time. Sorry. You're a good dude. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. I appreciate the comments. That's nice. No risk, no reward. Yeah. 3-day period. Subscription structure. Yeah, I thought about that. Bigger deposit. Yeah. Yeah, MM7 WAP. I appreciate the idea. $129.99. Yeah, Mr. Grumby, that's exactly what I'm doing in this. That's the idea. So yeah, I'm not going to be renting individual modules because the paperwork itself is too much, because you could potentially, I could spend my whole time doing that and not have any time to make videos or to write or actually make a proper living. And if you're renting each module at like a tenner a time, you have to do a heck of a lot to actually make any money, and you'd be going down the post office all the time sending the bloody things out. So the individual module renting, not so much. I mean, I think if somebody's interested and makes me an offer, then maybe that's a thing. So the idea is to rent little systems. So I'll tell you what I've got. I've got 3 of these. So this one is just a synthesizer voice with interesting modules, lots of flashing lights. It's a beautiful thing to play with. I'm going to build another one with the Descartes Dream voice, the Descartes voice. And I think what I'm going to try is I'm going to stick in the Eventide Misha and try to work that out. So like a weird sequencer and a fantastic synth voice. You know, I mean, there's £1,000 of module just in those 2, I think, in there. Stick in a nice whacking great big reverb. Fantastic thing to play with. So that will probably be my Wendy or my Molten. I'm not sure yet. And then I'll do another one which perhaps is just percussion. Lots of percussion stuff, trigger sequencers. I've got quite a few drum modules now that could be used in that. So there's 3 interesting little systems that can be used by themselves or in combination with other things. You know, $129.99, as Paulie says, you can have it for a month. If you don't bring it back, I'll cut your legs off. Yeah, that kind of thing. Or I give it to them with an explosive with a timer in it that's going to go off in 30 days. That sort of thing that I then attach to their leg. I think that's probably the way. That's probably the way to do it. So I've got those 3. I've got the Erica Synths educational system for people starting out who'd like to have a play with that. I've got an entire case of the Behringer 2500 modules. That absolutely want to rent out. The Moog Mother 32 DFAM Labyrinth combo, rent those out. I've got the little Roland S1 T8 vocal thing. What's the other one? I can't remember. T303. Anyway, I got those that I could rent out as a bundle, you know. I've potentially got a Mini Freak, a Hydra Explorer. All of those things are possibilities. The only thing that occurs to me that if I rent everything out, I won't have anything to show with the next one. So, you know, but I'll work it out. So I've got a bunch of different things that potentially could raise, I don't know, it could be 500 quid a month it would raise, which would really help, you know, really help with the bills and the earning a living side of things. You know, I genuinely think there's a possibility there. And also there's an option for other manufacturers to get involved and to send me stuff in order to include that in the system, because ultimately I'm selling their gear, aren't I, at the end of the day. Yeah, so yeah, it was a good idea. Yeah, 200 quid a month, as Tanuki suggests. Rather just buy it on the tomorrow dollar or something, whatever that means. If I like it, I'll keep it. Yeah, but for £200 a month, you're buying an entire instrument. You're not buying one module. You're not borrowing a module. You're borrowing 8 modules in a system, in an instrument. Do you see what I mean? 50 quid a week doesn't sound quite so bad. You see what I'm saying? So that is the way you've got to look at it. If you try and look at it as that you're renting an individual module, that's not the point. I mean, the other thing is that, no, I don't know what the other thing is. There's 100 other things. Let me not get distracted. Do I have any voltage labs? Yes. So I've got a Tiger keyboard. I've got a Tiger module, and I have the Voltage Lab 2, which sadly has a winding capacitor, which I need to get to the bottom of, because it seems impossible to send it back. Too much trouble to send it back and get it sorted. So, you know, have I caught the sun? No, it's just hot in here. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need a business license, credit card reader, insurgents. I am already a business. I'm a limited company, so that's not a problem. Getting a card reader these days is no problem. I have a swipe carbon copy machine, in a cupboard somewhere. Insurance, yeah, that's something I definitely have to look into. Public liability at the very least, but that's not a problem. That's about 30 quid a time. Not a problem. Teaching classes on Patreon would be the easiest. Would it now? I mean, that's what these people who sell apps would like us to believe. But I don't know. It takes a long time to put those courses together, I think. And then expect people to give you money for them. I mean, possibly, I don't know. I've never... one of the difficulties I have that as soon as I try to script something, as soon as I try to do something particularly intentionally, I kind of fall apart. I'm not very good at that. I'm much, much better at off the cuff, exploring stuff, discovering things, talking about it, than I am trying to prescribe a lesson to something. I'm not saying that I can't. I'm just saying I find that hard. So it would take me much longer to produce. But it's always a possibility. But modular, I tend to find that because it's so varied, what is it that you can actually do? I mean, I've already got videos out there on basics in modular, but potentially, I don't know, is there a market for people who would like to pay money to me rather than Sarah Bell Reid or Bo Beats, or, there's plenty of stuff out there done by other people, I think. Sounds like you need a section of your website for this. Oh, really? You think? Oh, that's good advice. Thank you. Swiping a card. Yeah. Do you remember signing the backs of things, Ken? That was the time. Yeah, I think manufacturers help. I mean, I've already spoken to Source, and Tom at Source is great. And he say, yeah, we're up for things. Absolutely. I mean, the thing about getting manufacturers to come along is that it costs them time and money to do that. In paying the staff and the expenses and all that kind of thing. And so what they want is to maximize the footfall and the eyes on their gear by doing a show, by doing Brastronica or Synth East. So doing something smaller, I don't know. However, at the same time, I think that those sorts of people, those sorts of manufacturers would go to music shops and do sessions from time to time. So I'm trying to see it as that. But I've got to speak to people, lots of people to speak to about it in order to make it really happen. I mean, again, because I'm always in six minds about everything, there's a way of doing it where I just take a bunch of stuff to an empty shop, an empty unit in a shopping mall. I set it all up and people go, ooh, come in, try some stuff and leave. And I go home. That's the basic level of it. I'm out of pocket a little bit, but I had a nice time and met some people, had some conversations. That's the basic level of doing it. I could do that without anything. Excuse me, perhaps with some liability insurance. So from there, ramping up to this idea of renting stuff out, making commission on sales, inviting manufacturers, that's quite a leap. It's quite a difference. And I don't know whether I need to go in full force or whether I need to go in and try it out for a couple of months and just to see if there's interest in passing trade and other people coming along, whether there's actually something there before I stick all the work into, making it amazing. Maybe. Ian, I'm not posting anything out. So the restrictions are, people who are within reach of Norwich. If they're interested in renting the thing, if that's important to them, and they're prepared to travel for a couple of hours, then it could be, a large chunk of the country. But you have to work out what's going to work. There's no point there's no point sending stuff out in the post if it's going to get broken. Things like this, you can send stuff out in its own packaging, original packaging, and that will be fine. But if I want to do something interesting with modular, if I want to increase a security level to the point that I'm meeting the person, photographing them with me and the gear, then you have to choose your location. I'm not in London, so I'm in Norwich, near Norwich. So that has to be where I do it, and it will either work or it won't. We got, how many people do we get? 300 people to Synth East. I don't know. This is the thing. Is it completely ridiculous or does it have some potential? Little shops work. Little businesses can work with local people coming to them and buying things and doing things. You just don't know, do you? You just don't know. If it became really interesting, then people, I think, would travel in order to take advantage of it. So, what time are we on? So, venue-wise then, just to throw this into the mix. No, you're not coming in here. You're not coming to my house. No way. That's a no-no. No. Because everyone would then see what terrible state the whole place is in. So 2 venues I've looked at in Norwich. First one is the Honesty Library, which is in the Castle Mole. Castle Mole is a shopping mall, big. When was it made? In the 90s, 2000s, 90s, I think. Shopping mall, kind of underground, sort of under the castle. There used to be a car park there, I remember. Anyway, there's still a car park. It's just now underground. What am I talking about? Anyway, it's Castle Mole. There's quite large shop, this space, which is currently used as an honesty library. It's run by a little charity where you can go in, take a book, leave a book, take a book, leave a book. It's completely unstaffed. There's a charity shop round the corner, a couple of units up, who essentially look after it. And while they're in the charity shop, the place is open and people can come and go. And they've decided that they can rent that out because they would like more people to use the space, because it's a little underutilised, to be fair. And it costs £60 whole for a day, which isn't not very much. Not very much at all. And it's a large space. It's got tables and chairs in it already. Probably a dozen tables with chairs around it. And it would be perfect. You could stick your little synths down on the tables. People can sit around, plug into them, have a go. Easy. It's got a single entrance. It's got a massive, great big window. People could see all the stuff going on inside. Massive amount of foot traffic, footfall going past, passers-by, that kind of thing. There's security within the mall itself, although not individually for the shop. It's great. It's great. So lots of pros to that. It would be simple. I take everything up in the lift, drag it around, I have to get myself a trolley or something, and set it up, off you go. It would absolutely work in that space. Now, I could only have it from 10 till 3. I could have it on a Saturday, which is great. 10 till 3, Saturday. So the idea in my head is that in the morning, people bring stuff back. In the afternoon, people can take stuff. And there's also stuff which is always out that people can play on. There'd be a table in the middle, which would be like a community table, that you could come, bring your own synth, plug it into, say, the assembler mixer, have a little pair of speakers, and people could jam if they wanted to. Because that would also be a really great thing to provide, to give it a little bit of a vibe. The cons, the downside for the Honesty Library is that the Castle Mole is not particularly the coolest place in the world. The vibe of the place is very sort of downbeat, I suppose. A little scruffy around the edges. It's sort of, the inside is very much primary school library vibes to it. It's not particularly beautiful. It's nice, but it's not. No, it's not nice. It's all right. It's functional. Functional was the word. It's not particularly beautiful. I think that, but the synths would look nice in there. It just has a very straight vibe to it. Lighting is sort of fluorescent bulbs. There's only 2 physical plugs in the entire room, so I'd have to stretch a lot of cables around the place. So it would totally do a decent job, I think. The price is great. The people are nice. I can have it one Saturday a month. Easy. That's definitely a good, safe option. The other option is the Holloway. Now, the Holloway is a flipping fantastically groovy little venue up the back alley of St Benedict Street. It's actually behind where Cook's Pianos used to be. It's fantastic. It's run by these couple of guys, and during the day it's a bookshop again, but it's a bookshop of the mystic arts. It's got weird hippie stuff in there from all over the place, music stuff, spiritual stuff, comics, just weird, interesting, fabulous art on the walls, rugs and tables and chairs and bits and pieces. It's the grooviest, coolest, vibiest place you could possibly imagine. It's dripping with awesomeness. And so, as you can probably tell, I'm quite drawn to the idea of using that space. It's smaller, slightly more expensive, not massively. So would sort of be trickier, and it's also kind of a cafe, so we're running into the potential of having Coke or coffee poured into one of my machines. You know, there are risks involved, I suppose, whichever way you look at it. But I mean, good Lord, is this a fantastic little quirky place. And would look brilliant, would look totally brilliant, and fully grasps the vibe of what's going on. It also has a basement, which is like the size of a lounge, I suppose, which is where they have gigs. And there's the potential of running from a synth day into a gig in the evening, which could be ticketed, which could be another way of raising some money. Excuse me. And also provides an opportunity for people to play, which is great. Who would play? I don't know. I have no idea. That adds a whole level of complexity to it. Now, while the Holloway is achingly cool, I do feel out of my depth there. I feel like I'm not cool enough for this at all. I'm too nerdy. I'm not quite confident enough to be fluent in the philosophy of the music of the spheres or some such. I feel like I would stumble a bit within the achingly coolness of it, and the people who would come would be, I'd be slightly intimidated by. However, it would also push me out of my comfort zone and potentially push me into the artistic community that is St Benedict Street and that part of Norwich. In the castle, you're dealing with, normal straight people. You're dealing with the people in sportswear and puffer jackets and stuff. That's fine. Those are people too. Whereas in St Benedict Street, you're dealing with the hipsters and the wailing banshees and the people who get naked and draw on themselves for art, stuff like that, the real creatives, and that's quite exciting. So I have this dilemma, if you like. I have one place which would be great, which would be safe, which would be easy, which would work. I have another place which is chaotic and dangerous but exciting and full of potential, and I don't really know which way to lean at the moment. I have no idea. I have no idea. To the point where actually I'm starting to feel that maybe I should use both. Maybe I should alternate. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Or at least I should try both of them out. Because the cons with the Holloway, there's a couple. First of all, it's in the middle of 2 flights of stairs. So access for wheelchairs or people with struggles is appalling. And then the downstairs is down a rickety flight of stairs. So that's not great. But, hey, you're disabled. Oh, well, that's not great. But there we go. That's life, innit? So there's that. The other con is availability. because they have got gigs going on and they have stuff booked and all that kind of thing. And so in order to do a day that then leads into a gig, it's unlikely to be a Saturday, because Saturday nights is the one night they would have something booked in. Now they're obviously, look, I mean, they're very keen and they're lovely and they're very keen because I imagine they want to use it as a marketing opportunity for their venue and their bookshop and their place. Absolutely. And, you know, that's why the collaboration is so great, is that we all get to win, which is fantastic. But I kind of get the feeling that a Saturday and a Saturday night would be quite a tall order, and they would rather perhaps not want to give up a Saturday night for it. In which case perhaps it would be a Sunday, which is okay. And also St Benedict Street is not necessarily quite the place where people go by accident and just passing would see it. They're more likely to go there on purpose. So the fact that it was a Sunday wouldn't necessarily matter, because you're not relying on Saturday traffic, if you see what I mean. So maybe what I'm trying to get around to is that maybe one month I do a Sunday in the Holloway, which then goes on all day and puts on a gig showcase of local electronic music talent in the evening. Do that on a Sunday. Then the following month do a Saturday in the Honesty Library. Maybe that's the way. And that way I'm in two different places, which, okay, adds a level of confusion, but I think people can get over that. It means that the Holloway thing isn't quite so chaotic. I can keep that to be steady and stable, perhaps. And it also means that if one venue disappears or breaks or something, I'm already in another one. Maybe that's the best way to do it. What I do know is I'm going to have to get hold of some kind of calendar so that I can keep track of what's going on. Oh, if you build it, they will come. Maybe. DFAM 10 to 20 a day. Yeah, I mean, the Moog Studio, which is 3 units, if it was 20 quid a day, that would make it 140 quid a week, which would make it £600 for the month. You know, it has to be monthly, otherwise I'm having to come back all the time. So for that, you can't rent something for £600 for a month. I think that's not that. I don't think that's it. But you know, you're talking about, they're what, 600 quid each, so that's £1,800 for £200 for the month. You know, maybe I'm undervaluing myself all the time, which is very, very possible. Very, very likely. Oh, Andrew, are you completely blathered? Normies, yeah, thanks, Ken, that's the word. Do the second thing. Late to the party, yeah. Normal core, is that what they call them these days? Because back in the day when I was a bit more gothic, they were straight. You know, straight means something different these days, but they were just, you know, they were just the straight people. Normal core. Yeah, all right. I like that. And I'm not saying, absolutely not saying there's anything wrong with that. Because, you know, we make assumptions about people which we shouldn't, but we do, you know, we do, absolutely. And there's tons of money in people who wear bomber jackets and want to play electronic music, absolutely. All of that, DJs, all sorts of music, different sorts of music. There's absolutely no restriction or barrier to entry whatsoever. It's just that I'm more intimidated by artistic people because that's what I aspire to be. I aspire to be in that arty farty crowd. And but that's another reason why I'd like to do it there, because I'd like to be in that crowd. I think that could be a wonderful thing. Could be rubbish, but it could be nice. It could really inspire, and inspiration is something that you need when you're by yourself in a shed a lot of the time. An informal gig in the afternoon? Yeah, I mean, maybe. My Patreon is called Robin Vincent. Yes, it is. Well, because I'm not just Molten modular, I suppose. I don't think it's that hard. I think I link everything I do is linked to it. I advertise it all the time. So, you know, I imagine that you found it. So I don't think it's that hard. Squares, yeah. Squares. Oh, the box is also good. Okay. Right, well, there you go. I sort of offloaded all of that. I suppose. As I say, at the moment, how it's resting with me is I'm thinking that perhaps both is a viable way forward. But it kind of, in some ways, it depends on what the availability of the Holloway is and how well that works. But, you know, both parties have been very keen, and that's really encouraging. I think ultimately I'm just going to have to give it a go and see how much work it is. Yeah, without the rental side, leave that until we're a bit more up and running, but put forward the idea and have information that people can take away. Would you like to rent this system? That kind of thing. Maybe that's the way in, is to just have stuff out, see what the sort of response is like, and see how much work it is. Do one at the Holloway, one at the Honesty Library, and see how it feels. I think that's probably the best way to do it, because it might just be far too much faff at the end of the day. But I just really like the idea. I am a socially awkward person often, to some degree, so it is an effort. It's not like I'm a massive extrovert who really feeds off the energy of other people, but I like the idea of pushing myself out in the community a little bit more often. I think that's good. I like the idea of people who wouldn't necessarily get the opportunity to see these things, to get the opportunity to see these things. And so with something like Synth East, it's difficult. It's not something you would pass by and go, oh, what's this? And can I go in? Because it's ticketed and such like. Whereas this you could. And if it happened often enough, it would have more chance of being noticed by people. Because it could become a bit of a feature, and that would be really, really cool, really, really interesting. Because Synth East tends to be attended by people who know it already, who know all about it already, and are enthusiasts and fascinated by the whole thing. That's great, but we get less newcomers and curious people, perhaps. So this would serve a different purpose, I hope. It's also different to Synth Club. It's not just people turning up and jamming together or sharing their interest of synthesizers together, although I'm quite happy for that to be an element, and we'll try to make space for that being an element, because I think that's also nice. So it's not that it's different. It's not EMOM either, because while I may be able to put on performances, I'm kind of aiming these at being something that people will be prepared to pay for. So slightly, I don't mean higher in any way other than, you know, there are ultimately levels to how people value live music, if you see what I mean. How that works, I don't have any idea. But I like the idea. Yeah. And then can I actually make any money out of it? That's the other thing. You need more Delia? All right, well, I'll turn Delia on, right? And while I get this other synth out. Still running on the battery. It's got 3 little things left. No, I think, how ponderous. You make a very valid point. Yeah, absolutely, you make a very valid point, and it's a shame that some places aren't accessible. I can't change that. I don't think it's a question of putting that disabled people aren't wanted. It's a question that disabled people are very much, very, very welcome if they have friends who will help them up and down the steps. You know, that's the point. We can't try to exist by ignoring the fact that these places exist without accessibility. You know, I don't know what I mean, other than I'm kind of pushing back against the idea that I should feel really, really bad about that. I mean, I do feel bad about that. I think it's a shame. I think it would be great if the whole world was without stairs. That would be great. But that's not the world that we're in. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, mate. I do understand the point, but I don't think that's really helpful, particularly at this point. And I am very sorry if people aren't able to come because of the steps. But we live in a stepped world, you know. Do you see what I mean? As in, you know, I think you're being a little bit harsh, if I may say so. But I also completely understand your point and where you're coming from. I don't know how to reconcile those two things. I don't think they are reconcilable. You just got to keep banging on for what you want, and we'll do our best to provide access in absolutely every way that we can. You know, again, that's another reason why I was saying of doing both, of doing one in the cool venue and one in the cold venue, for instance. And in Castle Mole, everything is flat, everything is lifted and flatted, and there are no bumps. So that would work. Yeah, that would work without being sort of pokey about it. I hope so, anyway. So, what have I got? I got this turned up in the post the other day. Sorry, I'm just a bit knocked sideways by your comment, mate. Don't quite know what to feel about that. I feel kind of suddenly attacked, and that seems a shame. We were having such a lovely time. Okay. Well, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. But, you know, we're all really trying really hard to do things and accommodate everyone at all times. And I'm really sorry that you feel excluded, because that's certainly not what not what I've found in the synth community particularly. I mean, sometimes, I remember in the early days of the Norwich Synth Club, we used to meet up in the Garnet pub, which is in the marketplace, and the only room we could get was upstairs. And Bill, who used to run it, he's on 2 crutches. He would have to sort of manhandle himself up those bloody stairs and get other people to carry his gear for him. But, you know, but he did. But that's what we could get, and that's kind of how it was. Yeah. All right. Well, you know, if you're intended to make me feel bad, you succeeded. Well done. Thank you very much for that. And I'm not blaming you for it. That's just the world, isn't it? The world sucks sometimes, and that's a shame. Hey, anyway, right. I'm going to put this away, I think, and then probably just gonna clear off instead. I don't know. Let's put this back on, I think. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Right, so I've got like 5 minutes or something. So this is from Donna. Let me turn that off for the minute. This is the L1. So this is their SH101 clone, I think, which comes in 2 parts. I've got another box with the other part over there, where it's a synthesizer in this section and a keyboard in another section, and it comes apart, which is a nifty idea. Nifty enough, I think. I can see that it's got this connection here for connecting the two together. But otherwise, it looks very much SH101-like. It has an additional envelope, I believe, if memory serves, is the main difference. And I imagine the sequencer is probably simpler. And it has a little screen. So we shall see. What I will do, I will take that off, which is rather nice. That's most satisfying. I think there's one on here as well. I have to be a bit careful with those because I've once scratched a screen on a synth trying to take the cover off, which wasn't actually there. Ta-da! Okay, cool. So I've got like 5 minutes. Should we plug it in and see what happens? Let's put this over here. I mean, I wonder whether the keyboard will be pluggable into other things. I wonder whether there's potential for a series of little synthesizers which can plug into the same keyboard. Maybe. I don't know. It's got a MIDI out. That's interesting. Oh. So if I plug these together, is it just going to kind of work? Gosh. That's very strong well, strongish in magnetic terms. Right, what can I plug it into there? Oh. How do I know if it's working? Oh, I need to make sound. What have I got up here? Phones, that'll do, because I had phones in the other one. I can steal that. I've got a light on here. That's a good sign. Okay, it's on drone mode. Of course, I'm going to have to turn things up and stuff. Volume. All right, there's something there. Let's see what happens. Aha! That does work. You can do the arpeggiator and then take the keyboard off. That's all I wanted to know, really. So there you go. That is 10 o'clock. I think we'll probably leave it there. And bid you good night, I should think. So that was the L1. I'll be doing a video on it over the summer. I think they want something to be released in August at some point. So that's my plan, to give that a little bit of a go. But that sounds like a synthesizer to me, and that's a nice thing. That's a nice thing. So. Yeah, the Donna stuff in my experience has been half decent. Yeah, I've got no problem with it. It's evidently plasticky. It's more compact, less chunky than it's certainly lighter than the Behringer clone of the SH101, which is the only version that I have. So interesting. Smaller keys, more plasticky, but lightweight. Is that good, bad? Another envelope, more functions. Don't know. You'll have to wait and see what I think. But yeah, they've been doing a fair job. I mean, obviously at some point you have to mention that it's just a clone of something that already exists. But I think what Donna have done differently to Behringer, because it's a very similar setup, massive Chinese factories building stuff on production lines. It's a very similar idea. But I feel that what Donna have done is just injected a bit of their own thought and character into it. So they've made it a little bit different, and they haven't sort of copied it like for like exactly. They're more inspired by or homaging something rather than just cloning it or trying to trade off the look of something else. They've got their own vibe going on, and I think that's positive. I don't think there's anything wrong in recreating old synths, never have done, and I like the fact that Donna have put in their own spin on it. That's cool. That's cool, and cheap synths for people. That's a nice thing. So there we go. I think that will do. Thank you for entertaining my thoughts this evening and helping me wrestle and wrangle my way through a few of these ideas. It's good for me just to speak them out, ultimately. Talking about things is how I tend to process stuff. Otherwise, it just rattles around in my head for a long, long time. So this process of talking through these ideas has been enormously helpful. And all of your comments, regardless of how weird they made me feel, are useful and helpful and will be taken on board and and mulled over for a long time to see where I get to. So thanks for your time this evening. Always a lot of stuff coming up. I'll do as many videos as I can to try to get more stuff out there into the world. And if you find this helpful, you find this channel helpful, then do come and visit us over on Patreon, where you can throw us a couple of quid. That's great. Like and subscribe, all of those sorts of things. Or consider renting one of my awesome little systems that will be along at some point soon, hopefully. Come to Norwich. It'll be nice. It will be good. It'll be good. It'll be all right. It'll work somehow. So yes, cheers. I've got the dog to sort out. So thanks very much for your time. I will see you soon. I'll go try to find the right button for the right thing. Where's that going to be? Is that over there? 7, 8, 7, 8. That one. There we go. So yeah, in the meantime, go make some tunes.
Yeah.